It's grim out there. Those are the words Jacinda Ardern's used to describe the state of geopolitics in a foreign policy address in Sydney today. She took the opportunity to reaffirm New Zealand's stance on China in the Pacific. Political reporter Imogen Wells is in Sydney with the Prime Minister.
The Prime Minister telling it like it is.
The honest reality is that the world is bloody messy.
Ardern giving a major foreign policy address at the Lowy Institute, an independent foreign policy think tank in Sydney.
We must not allow the risk of a self-fulfilling prophecy to become an inevitable outcome for our region.
And by that, she means making assumptions about China's assertiveness in the Pacific. Instead, Ardern says trade can be used to keep countries friendly and talking.
We won't succeed, however, if those parties we seek to engage with are increasingly isolated and the region we inhabit becomes increasingly divided and polarised.
But denies that calling for diplomacy with China while standing on Aussie soil was advice for our trans-Tasman neighbour who has a checkered past with the superpower.
This is not directed at anyone in particular, but simply New Zealand's position more broadly.
Ardern's speech comes at the same time the heads of MI5 and the FBI issued stark warnings about China in the wake of a report on Chinese attempts to influence and interfere in US politics.
It's the Chinese government that poses the biggest long-term threat to our economic and national security. The Chinese government sees cyber as the pathway to cheat and steal on a massive scale.
Look, you'll see within New Zealand's national security priorities very distinct reference to cybersecurity because New Zealand is not immune to experiencing these challenges.
Australia's Foreign Minister Penny Wong putting a different pressure on China, urging it to wield more of its power to end the war in Ukraine.
It's our view that, of course, they should too join with the international community in calling out Russia on its war in Ukraine.
The Prime Minister finishing her speech on a positive note, our special friendship across the ditch.
This is our home, and that makes you our cousins. But more importantly, over many years, it has made you our friend.
A friend Ardern hopes has our back in the Pacific.
So a big morning there in Sydney. Imogen, what else did Jacinda Ardern have on the agenda?
Well, Mike, this afternoon, Jacinda Ardern met with the New South Wales Premier Dominic Perrottet. She said the main item on the agenda there was the current issue at hand, the Sydney floodings. She wanted to throw New Zealand support behind the state as it battles yet another significant weather event. That conversation then naturally leading into one on climate change with the Premier here in New South Wales. Now, climate change is also one she wants to talk about tomorrow at the mega meeting. Tomorrow is when we finally get that sit-down, that face-to-face meeting with Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. Ardern will also be wanting to ask him about his recent trip to Ukraine and learn more about his experiences there on the ground too. Now, at that meeting tomorrow, Jacinda Ardern will also have with her a group of ministers who are talking to their Aussie counterparts. So that should mean there is scope to really get down to the nitty-gritty tomorrow on some specific and big issues.
Imogen Wells live from Sydney. Thank you.